Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. So guys, it looks like Canelo Alvarez is going to fight Avni Yildirim, and then the Billy Joe Saunders fight will be announced post Canelo Yildirim. Now, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Canelo Alvarez has got to beat Yildirim, and I believe he'll beat Yildirim quite comfortably. And then apparently the fight after beating Yildirim, Billy Joe Saunders, will be announced right away. This is from what Eddie Hearn said in an interview recently. He was asked about it and he gave a cheeky smile. Kinds of made me think the fight's done and it will be announced if Canelo is successful against Yildirim. I think they'll announce the fight. I think they will announce the fight straight after the fight. And Canelo, think about it, right? He'd be fighting Callum Smith in December. Then he's fought Yildirim in February. Then he's going to fight Saunders in May. What that tells you is that this man is so confident that Callum Smith, Billy Joe are nobodies to him. Like, he literally thinks he could just walk, like, in a space of 4 or 5 months, he feels he can walk through 3 fighters. Like, and you're talking 2 or championship level. Like, fair enough, Yildirim, he's defending his mandatory against quite a soft opponent, a guy that, Eubank knocked out quite a while ago. And Canelo's going to most likely walk through Yildirim. And then he's going to take on Billy Joe Saunders in, March, April, May, right at the beginning of May. In 2 months rest, he's going to probably go straight back in camp. So he probably thinks the Yildirim fight isn't going to be a tough fight at all. Because if it is, there's no way he would fight in May. So he's that confident that after beating Callum Smith, he feels he's going to beat Yildirim. And then he's going to go straight into a fight with Billy Joe Saunders. And beat Billy Joe Saunders. This guy is a beast. Genuinely, I think Canelo is a beast. Just that in itself deserves so much respect. How many fighters do you see do that? And Americans will say, oh, well, he's fighting bums, he's fighting Saunders, he's fighting Callum Smith, he's fighting Yildirim. But here in the UK, we know Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders aren't no bums. If Canelo he'll beat Yildirim, and he beats Saunders. I believe he beats Saunders. His reputation amongst the British fans are going to go through the roof. Because, especially if he destroys Saunders, like I'm saying, goes in there and wipes the floor with him, which is a possibility, right? His reputation amongst the British fans will go sky high. Because for him to do what he's done in the last, 5 months, because remember, he fought Callum Smith in December, fighting Yildirim in February, and then fighting Saunders in May. You don't see fighters do that in today's time. You don't see top level fighters do that. Canelo's a throwback. He's so dedicated alongside his such great boxing skill set that he's got unbelievable skill set. I was talking with someone today about how good Canelo is. Not just the fact that he's improving, looks like he's getting better every fight. His defense is so good. Like, his head movement is so good. Like, I saw a video with Jacobs and Canelo, and Jacobs was literally punching at fresh air. Canelo made him miss. It was beautiful to watch. And he made him miss in a way where it was so beautiful to watch. The guy is an elite level fighter. I know people say Canelo's cherry picking, he's doing this, he's doing that. Trust me, this guy is a beast and an elite level fighter, a guy that is a throwback that fights. Look, he wants to fight 5 times. He wants to fight in September, then he wants to fight in December. He wants to fight almost in a space of a year. He'd be a fight 5 times. If he fights in September and then fights in December, that would be almost 5 times. He wants to become undisputed 168-pound champion. He wants to fight Billy Joe Saunders in May and then fight Caleb Plant in September. And then fight in December. You don't see that kind of determination anymore. You don't see that kind of hunger anymore. You don't see that kind of dedication to the sport. You know, guys are like, look at Spence. He fights what? When was the last time he fought? He fought in November or December? Can't remember. I think it was December. And we're not even hearing about another fight. We're not even hearing about another fight. We're not hearing about another fight. When's Spence going to fight next? But yet Canelo's already got 2 fights planned by May. Yeah, I don't even think Errol Spence is going to have 1 fight in that time. And yet Canelo fought after Spence. Do you understand the kind of dedication and the kind of what Canelo is giving to us and giving to the fans? The man's had over 50 fights already? He's had way over 50 fights. Beast. All I can say is beast. He's a beast. He's a beast. And I don't think he gets the credit amongst the boxing fans. I don't know what more the boxing fans need to applaud a guy and say, wow, this guy is on another level. He's fighting 3 times in 5 months. And people may say, well, the 168-pound division is weak. Yeah, because he's that good. Billy Joe Saunders against Callum Smith would be a tough fight for Billy Joe Saunders and a tough fight for Callum Smith. Caleb Plant against Billy Joe Saunders would be a tough fight for Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders. Just because they're not tough fights for Canelo, that's not because the division's that poor or the fighters are bums. No, it's because Canelo's that brilliant. Billy Joe Saunders is a very good fighter. Caleb Plant is a very good fighter. Callum Smith is a very good fighter. But Canelo's a great, great fighter. That's the difference. I'm not saying it's the strongest 168-pound division ever. Because Billy Joe Saunders isn't a natural 168-pounder. Right? He's not a natural. He's probably best suited at middleweight. But nevertheless, he's still a tough fight, still a good fighter, you know. And Canelo, everyone, like for me, it's like, oh, Canelo's fighting a bum. Like, how is Billy Joe Saunders? Billy Joe Saunders is a really good fighter. I feel like people are intentionally doing that to take away from Canelo. And like, I keep hearing, you know, the Americans saying, well, he needs to fight Charlo. He's fighting these Euro bums. Like, what are you talking about? What's to say that Charlo beats Callum Smith? Like, that's a tough fight. Smith can really fight. Just because Americans don't know who Smith is, that doesn't mean that he's not a good fighter. Just because Americans don't know who Billy Joe Saunders is and they haven't seen a lot of his fights, that doesn't mean he can't fight. You know? I feel a lot of the American fans at times can be very disrespectful to some of the British fans, whereas the British fans acknowledge the American fighters a lot more than what the American fighters acknowledge of the British fans. British fighters. You know, I think they just disrespect the UK fighters like they're complete trash. Listen, obviously Americans have a larger talent pool. They're a bigger country. They have a larger talent pool for sure. And they've produced over history, they've produced the better fighters. Of course they have. But, you know, the fighters in the UK are no bums. They're good fighters, really good fighters. Had some really, really good fighters. So I can understand a lot of the Americans thinking that Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders are no good. But I can assure you, both those guys are world-class fighters. And what Canelo's doing is nothing short of incredible. If he beats Yildirim and then beats Saunders, which most people expect him to do, right? A lot of people keep saying that he's not having 50-50 fights. Charlo's not a 50-50 fight. Andrade's not a 50-50 fight. The same way the Americans feel about Billy Joe Saunders and Callum Smith is how the UK fans feel about Andrade and Charlo. Although the UK fans give Charlo and what's his name? Andrade a lot more respect than the American fans give Billy Joe Saunders and Callum Smith. But nevertheless, over here, we don't think Andrade or Charlo beat Canelo. We don't think it come close. Listen, Andrade's a good fighter, good slick southpaw. Charlo's a good fighter, good strong fighter. But again, Canelo's a different level to these guys. Different level. He's proven a proven worthy champion, an all-time great already. He's already an all-time great. You know, when you look at all these guys' resumes, all of these guys' resumes that Canelo's fighting, their resumes are terrible. Their resumes are terrible compared to Canelo. But yet, Canelo's the one that's always getting stick. Yeah, but none of these guys get stick for not fighting one another. Why? They're all waiting for the Canelo fight. They're all waiting for the Canelo payday, but they're not willing to fight one another to test themselves. They're all waiting to stay undefeated. They're all waiting and staying undefeated, waiting for that Canelo fight, but not fighting one another and risking their O's. Why don't we see Andrade against Benavidez? Why don't we see Benavidez against Plant? Why don't we see Plant against Smith? You know, I know Smith's now moved up to 175. Why don't we see these guys mix and match each other? You know, why don't we see Charlo fight Andrade? Why don't we see Andrade fight Golovkin? You know, why? This is what I mean. It's like these guys are all waiting for Canelo, man, rather than fighting one another. Canelo's fighting all these guys. He's fighting Smith. He's fighting Saunders. He's going to fight Caleb Plant. But when are these guys going to start fighting one another? That's what I want to know. Like, at the end of the day, we're always critical of Canelo. Yeah, he's the cash cow and he's the biggest star in boxing. But nevertheless, what are the others? The others are world champions. They should be fighting one another. They should be looking to unify. You know, Andrade's a world champion. Golovkin's a world champion. Get him in the ring. You know, Charlo's a world champion. Andrade's a world champion. Get them to fight one another. I believe Andrade is a 2-division world champion. He's never had a unification fight. Billy Joe Saunders is a 2-weight world champion. Never had a unification fight. But this will be the first time fighting Canelo, he's involved in a unification fight. Prior to that, he's never had a unification fight. So again, that in itself tells you all you need to know about, you know, their level of resume, their level of opponents that they've been fighting. I want to see all these guys fight one another. I would love to see Billy Joe Saunders against Benavidez. Listen, Billy Joe Saunders, if he was to lose to Canelo, he might go down to a middleweight, because I think he's better suited at middleweight. But I think, like he said, all the money fights are at 168, and he's right. Callum Smith moved up to 175. That's not going to happen. Billy Joe Saunders, really, I think if he loses to Canelo, then really, I think Billy Joe Saunders and Eubank would be a big fight. I think that would be a big fight for him. Apart from that, I don't know what Billy Joe Saunders, you never know. Billy Joe Saunders might see off into the sunset. He would have made a lot of money from the Canelo fight, and he might think that's it. You know, so listen, let's hope Billy Joe Saunders can put in a good performance against Canelo. And listen, who knows? He might be able to pull off a shock upset. I wouldn't be picking him to win, but, you know, who knows? He may be able to pull it off. He's a good boxer, a good solid guy. And at the end of the day, Canelo's a human being. There's going to be a time where he slips up. And it may be against Billy Joe Saunders. So, you know, I wish Billy Joe Saunders all the best. He's putting it on the line against Canelo. Hopefully the fight does get announced. Hopefully at the Yildirim fight, when Canelo should beat Yildirim, the fight between Saunders and Canelo gets announced. And we see a fight for a unification fight in the super middleweight division. Well, Canelo's got 2 belts, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because the WBC and the WBA were on the line when he fought Smith. And now he's fighting Saunders for the WBO, and then I think the IBF will be the only belt that he hasn't won, and then that'll be on the line. So leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.